Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my non-binary friends, welcome back to another episode of the What the Fluff podcast. I know it's been a couple weeks since we've last seen each other, and I do apologize for there being time between our weekly conversations. Just going through some life stuff. I know I'll talk about it. We'll get to it on an episode, maybe in the next few weeks. But one thing that I did want to talk about, I wanted to talk about this 2 weeks ago. I had it written down. I just never got around to doing it. And that topic is talking about advice. One of the things, I feel like most of these episodes end up becoming to be because of the stuff that I see on Twitter. I feel like I'm going to have a section of the podcast that's for like life lessons, and then another section that's just things that bother me on Twitter that I want to talk to you guys about. And one of the things, I feel like it's actually not one of the biggest things that I see on Twitter, but just in general, is a lot of people ask for advice. But one of the things that I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily do, and myself included, is vet that advice. So often we just shoot out. I guess I should just speak personally. There's so much not knowing. And I guess I might as well just relate it to streaming, because that's probably the newest thing in my life that I've had to immerse myself in, and something that I didn't know much about. And as I've learned more about it, realized just how little I knew. And one of the things when you're first starting out is you're just looking for advice anywhere. It doesn't matter essentially who it is. You're just like, hey, I don't know any of this. Is there someone that will help me? Is there someone that can do this? And that, I will say, is a great skill to build. The ability to ask for help is something that a lot of us don't do. We would rather just sit, especially as dudes. We are so proud that we would rather wait an hour to try and figure this thing out by ourselves than take 30 seconds to type our stupid freaking question into Google. And so when we do get the courage, when we do get the courage to ask for advice, when we get the courage to ask for advice, I feel like, at least personally, I didn't make sure it was from the right people. And that's not saying that people that I've asked advice from have steered me wrong or anything. It's just that I didn't go about my advice seeking mindfully. In that, the whole point I'm trying to make in this long gosh darn monologue is vet your advice. You're not going to go to someone who is in an unhealthy financial situation and ask them for financial advice. You're not going to go to someone who has unhealthy relationships consistently in their life. You wouldn't go to that person to ask for advice. What I wanted to sort of get into is not just the general idea of advice. I feel like most of us understand that. But one of the things that I feel like we don't do necessarily is we don't vet those close enough to us. We just because we feel that they have our best interests, or that they're close to us, so they would never steer us wrong. With all due respect, some of our friends are fucking idiots, right? Like, you know, we always have that one friend who I feel like I am turning into, who is just the love lost one, who just can't, it just doesn't seem to happen. And yet when we are feeling insecure about our own advice, we're going to go and talk to that person about it. Or we have a friend that's constantly mismanaging money, and we're going to be going to them to ask for money. That doesn't sound right. Not even one bit. And so I also want to make sure that I specify why I use the word healthy and not opposed to, for example, I don't care about getting advice from someone that's rich, because I don't know if they are good with money, or if they just happen to have wealth from X, Y, or Z reasons. Just because, like myself, I am in shape, but does that necessarily qualify me to be able to speak about health and fitness? Absolutely not. I could just look like this. However, if you talk to me, if you start to ask me questions, you can learn that I am fairly knowledgeable. And so that is one thing that I wanted to put out there, because I feel like, yeah, we might just be putting out so many feelers for advice and for help that we don't necessarily take the time to look at the quality of the information given. And because so many of us are beginners in areas, and we are all beginners in more areas than we're experts, for sure. That's just what life is. We need to be able to ask these questions. We need to be able to know in a way what we're looking for. We need to know a way to be able to, and that's also the hardest part, is determining the validity of someone's advice. And that's why it can be such a tricky thing. That's why I feel like advice is so important, because you can be getting what you think is good advice and slowly be steering you in the wrong direction. You could also be getting what you think is bad advice, but you don't realize that the person is already, I don't know, man. Advice is such a tricky thing, which is why I wanted to touch on it. And I feel like this is going to be a shorter episode, because I really just, I think the whole thing that I wanted to push out there is to vet that information, is to make sure that you are taking in information that is healthy information, that is information that has been proven to produce good results. That is one of the main reasons why I've started to feel qualified, if you will, to talk about these certain things, to talk about mental health stuff and what I've done to progress. I'm not trying to come in here and say I know more than everyone, because absolutely effing not. I don't even come close, which is why I'm excited to start having conversations again, so that there can be the back and forth. There can be the, what do you do? How do you experience this? And what do you do to get through it? That is always so beautiful. But one of the things I've actually lived through is having advice given from different people, only upon later realizing that the advice that I was asking for was never going to be sufficient, because that person wasn't living the life that I wanted to live. So I guess that's one thing that I would also like to drop onto you guys. Obviously, you know, I mentioned at the beginning, do you have healthy relationships? I don't want your advice on relationships. Are you healthy financially? And I alluded to it, and I think I got distracted, but that's not to say that you are in a relationship right now. That's not to say that you are wealthy right now. That's not to say that you are extremely healthy right now. It's, have you done the things? Are you doing the things that are going to put you into better positions, that are going to put you into better financial positions? That's why I don't need the fix. Even something as simple as, what's something small that I can reference? That's one of the things why I like to say with health. When it comes to lifting and health and fitness, I've been doing it for 15 years. I know the lack of motivation that comes with struggling in that. So I know the advice to give. I know that you don't want to start by saying that you're going to go 5 days a week, 2 hours a day, and you're not going to miss a day. Not at all. You want to start small and manageable, because it's a difficult thing that you're entering yourself into. And so that's advice I would give there. When it comes to relationships, open and honest communication. I feel like you guys know that is something I preach, managing expectations. Pretty much everything that we've talked about so far in the podcast, I can defend, if you will, my knowledge of that information. And I feel like that's also something, now that I think about it, that we don't necessarily ask, at least that I can even think of. It's the, oh, this is what you're suggesting to me. How did you practice that? How did that benefit you? What were you doing before? What have you tried? And I feel like to have those conversations also opens up just your communication as friends, right? Do you really want to just say, do you really want to be the person? And I used to be this person. I still am in some ways, because I'm a lazy piece of shit. But do you want to be the person that's just like, oh, okay, I accept that? Or are you going to ask, why is that the case? Why are you doing that? How did you come to that understanding? That way you can get a full picture. You can get more than just the one route. You can also get other options, because guess what? The other beautiful thing about advice, is that it might not also be applicable to you. The person that you're talking to could go through life in a completely different way than you, which is also why you vet the information. And is that person living the life that you want to live? They took the advice that they are giving you, and that is how their life turned out. Do you want that life based on that information? Not to say that that's a guarantee, not to say that what for you works for them. But again, that's one of those making sure that you're doing your due diligence. That word is hard. Do your homework. Yeah. And that's, you are the 5 people that you spend the most time with. You are the people that when it's just you and them, you will become those people. And it's no different when you take their advice, right? So if you have people around you who are living lives that you don't necessarily want to have, maybe check the advice you're asking them for. Maybe ask what role they're playing in your life and really determine if that is someone that you want to be listening to, if that is someone whose opinion you want to harness and care and nurture. Because at the end of the day, that's, who your friends are. And that's who I feel is going to be giving you the most advice. That's who I go to for the most advice, are my close friends. And that is the reason that they are my close and best friends, because I know that they are walking through life in a way that I agree with, that I would also like to walk through life in the way that they do. And so, yeah, that's all I'm really trying to say. And I hope, like always, that some of that made sense. Because again, I all I want to do is help you guys, man. I had a talk on stream about how much I love this podcast, how much talking about feelings and talking about the journey and talking about the struggles of life has been the most incredible thing for me. And you know what? Screw it. We're turning down the music. I was actually listening to a podcast the other day, and it was talking about the importance of sharing these difficult things. And the more people talk about it, the more awareness that comes to it. And one of the quotes that they used was, sometimes you never know when your darkness can be the light for someone else. And that is the most powerful thing on earth, man. I know it doesn't have anything to do with advice, but be vulnerable, man. Be brave enough to tell your friends how you're feeling, how you're hurt, how you're disappointed, how you're joyed, how you're elated, how you're anxious, how you're stressed, whatever it is. Allow the opportunity to connect with a person. Allow that opportunity to build that relationship and let it go deeper, because I can guarantee you, you will lose nothing by getting more vulnerable with your friends, by talking about your feelings, by asking them how they really are. And guess what? If someone doesn't want to go there with you, that's okay. If that's what you want from your relationships, now you know that is not going to be something you can get from that person, and you can reassess, that value to you in terms of that relationship. But it's only going to make your relationship stronger. It's only going to make your life better. And I guess that's one thing that I will invite you guys to do today. That's, you know what? Glennon Doyle ends that. One thing that we're going to do differently going forward. And one thing that I would like us to do going forward this week, if you can, is have a difficult, deep, vulnerable conversation with a friend. Maybe someone you haven't talked about deep things with. But see if they're open to it. See, and you'd be surprised to see where you guys end up going. Yeah, man. Thank you guys again for taking some beautiful time out of your day to listen to my nonsensical rambling. I hope it made sense. I just got done with a long, intense stream, but I had these ideas and I wanted to make sure I got them out. I'm going to do my best, man, to make sure that we have at least one podcast a week, if not more. This is something that I truly care about and something that I love. And it has been a vlog, if you will, of just feelings and life and growth and changing and all that beautiful stuff. And I'm excited to keep it going, excited to take you guys along the journey. And yeah, man, I appreciate y'all. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, night, morning, whatever the fluff it is y'all got going on after listening to this. Remember, you're only as awesome as you treat other people. I cannot thank you guys enough for listening. Hopefully, I will catch you on the next week of the beautiful What the Fluff podcast. Good night, y'all. Good stuff.